Talking with Beecher. Let's go.
All right. Jake Adkins.
Yeah.
You're an engineer.
I am.
I was reading about you last night.
Okay.
Okay. And you wanted to be an engineer your whole life?
Probably. I mean, I would say it's one of those things where it's like you couldn't imagine doing anything else. And so as a lack of other options of things of like, what could you do? That's where I landed. So,
man, a lack of other options. Being an engineer, that's a big option.
Right, but everything else seemed awful.
Really?
Right? Like I couldn't think of like, I don't know. It's like, what do you want to be, like an accountant or a carpenter or whatever? And some of the other options that like. Okay, like astronaut would have been really cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be an astronaut? But like, I will say the other options that seemed realistic weren't great, right? So yeah, I mean, it was just real early age. I mean, it's very kind of. There's a classic engineering story, and it's either erector sets, Legos, or what are those, Connects or something like that?
Yeah.
And like there's like the certain set of toy sets that you get, and they just click, and you just build stuff.
So all the parents out there, listen to this. If you want your kids to be engineers, then get them all those toys, right?
Well, okay, so I've got 4 kids, and because I'm an engineer and I wanted them to be an engineer, they've got the Legos and the everything. And my daughter, who is my daughter's very, very smart, and I've been pushing her, and she's like, "Dad, no." Not going to be an engineer.
She doesn't want to be?
Something else. Yeah, she's 14. So, So she wants to be something totally different. She hasn't figured it out, but she knows it's 100% not an engineer.
Okay. So wait.
So it doesn't always work.
Okay. So let me ask you this, though. So you're a PE, which is a professional engineer.
Right.
So like when you go to school to be an engineer, is it just like building stuff, or there's like chemical engineers? There's like all kinds of different engineers. Which one did you know what to take? You knew what you wanted to be. You want to build things and invent things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple of different things, and like really, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and civil engineering are kind of the core.
What's civil engineering?
So civil is typically buildings, bridges, and roads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those 3 are really kind of the core disciplines, and there's some other stuff that's branched off out of those, right? And become really sub-disciplines, and some of these guys who are other things are going to be like, I'm not a sub-discipline. But like machine controls is one. And so that's actually the programming of machines to be run automated, right? So you've got a big, large machine, and you've got to have a computer that controls it, tells it what to do, and how to react to things.
Like in oil refineries?
Yeah, I mean, it actually comes into a lot of stuff. So a lot of things, even really, depending on what year of car you have, there's a lot of machine control in your cars.
I have a 65 Cadillac.
Okay, so there's no machine controls in that. That's all you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all the electronics that go on top of your engine and tell it what to do and how to respond, all that's machine control stuff. It's essentially everything is like that nowadays. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, even like my coffee maker's got machine controls in it, right? It's got all the selector switches and all the different stuff like that. And there's a chip in there, and it's controlling all the different parameters it takes to make a cup of coffee.
But you're a building engineer, though. You build things. Is it different?
Right. Yeah. So when you get your degree in mechanical engineering, there's a couple of things you can do with it.
I'm an amateur. My phone's on. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right. So there's a couple of things you can do with it. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but 3 main things is like you go into design. So you're going to design machines, or you go into manufacturing engineering. So you're going to be actually in a factory, routing things through the shop, making them be built right and in the most efficient way and everything like that. Or there's like you can do HVAC and plumbing for buildings. So that's another thing that you can do. But I did. So I started off. I did a couple internships. So I started with an automotive company, and I was in manufacturing, and we were doing all kinds of manufacturing stuff, and it was really interesting. And then I went and did a internship with another automotive company, but it was design. And
You got to design cars, or
no. Okay, so we talk about automotive for a long time because I spent a little bit of time in that industry, and I went into automotive because I wanted to design stuff and I wanted to design cars, and I thought that would be really fun. And then I really quickly learned that I don't know that there's actually anybody who designs cars. There's a lot of people who design car parts, and the OEMs spec out everything, and somehow it all comes together and produces a car at the end of the day.
Yeah, but what about the shape of the car? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and that's actually usually more that's more industrial design, like the shape, like the actual styling and everything like that. That's closer to art than it is engineering. And there is a lot that goes into it, right? You can't dismiss the aerodynamics and everything like that goes into it. So there is some engineering work on the shape of it and the body, but they want you in automotive to get a part, like a type of thing, and they want you to design it over and over and over again and make zero mistakes and do it very fast. And so you might get something that's really interesting. So you might get on the transmission team or the engine team or chassis and suspension team. And, that's, those are big parts of the car, and they're interesting and they take a lot of work and a lot of technical stuff. I didn't do that. I didn't get in on any of those teams.
What were you on?
So I was actually designing the little levers that you open and close your door, like the seats.
And the seats in the back. Yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there are actually companies who specialize in that. So it's not even the seats. I didn't even design seats. I designed the levers that attach to those seats, and you pull that lever and it folds down and flips up, or folds into the floor and does stuff like that. And so I had some work that made it out onto a couple of major projects, like
Cadillac.
Cadillac was one. I had one on some Honda stuff. I had some ones on a couple of GM platforms, a couple of Ford platforms, things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, one of my designs actually made it into a movie.
What?
Yeah, it was Die Hard. I think Die Hard 4.
All right.
There's a scene where Bruce Willis is what he's doing is like he's in a Florida excursion, I think, and he's going through some like coal mine in West Virginia, and he wrecks the car and he's holding on to this handle, right?
Okay.
And like that was the handle I designed.
What?
Yeah.
In the Ford Excursion?
Yeah, in the Ford Excursion.
Was it I call it a shit handle?
No, it was like on the third row seat. Like how this happens in the movies. He's like driving and all ends up in the back seat, and he's hanging out of the back. It's crashed, and he's holding on to like the third row seat, and it's like, hold on. I'm like, that wouldn't have held him.
Yeah,
that would not have held.
But you designed it, so you know.
I designed it. Yeah, nobody else knows that.
So I thought that you designed those on your own and sold them to like Ford or Cadillac.
No. So automotive is really like tiered in terms of supplier bases. And so my customer wasn't even Ford. My customer was the guy who designed the seats. So what they'll do is they will contract out like what they're not good at, which is the plastic design and the cables and all that stuff. And so what they would do is they would come to a couple of companies like us, and they would say, hey, we want something that does this. You would make a proposal and send it into them, and if we won the bid, we'd get the business. And
so you have to design that part that they want, and then if they like your design better than everyone else's, then they pick yours.
Yeah, the design and the price and everything like that.
Yeah, the price of course, right?
Yeah. Now, usually, like those handles, a lot of times, what those handles were, the part you see, we would actually just get a surface model of it. So it had no mass to it. It was just like the shape. And so somebody had actually drawn a picture of it, and they said, it's got to look like that on the outside.
All right.
And so I would take that surface model, and a lot of times it would be contoured or something like that because they wanted to follow the back of the seat and blend in there really well. And so I would take that surface model and I would build everything below that.
All right.
So, yeah, and we do it in
so
like
you have
3D.
to figure out how to make that model work.
Right.
That's engineering.
Yeah, that's a lot of
That's
engineering,
cool.
and then the calculations behind it to make sure that it's not going to break and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's kind of important too.
Or it'll only break in 50,000 miles when your warranty's up.
Yes,
Then everything's going to break.
Right. Yeah, there is a certain amount of you do have to consider how long you're going to actually use this thing, because your cost starts to really add up, and so you can make something that'll last a lot longer, but it's going to cost more, right?
Yeah.
So, and people have been trying to figure out how to make it's not really even the best product. It's like the right product. And that's a huge part of engineering, is trying to figure out how long does this thing need to work, right? I mean, how long, if I make a machine that will last for the next 100 years, is anybody going to buy it? Because
the thing that I think about cars, and I've been thinking this for years, I have a 65 Cadillac, but back then they used to make cars to as well as they knew how to last.
Right.
Now I think they make cars I want them to break down so in this long to where people buy more parts, then we make more money. Then when we buy more parts, then the car dies and then they have to buy a new car.
Right. Yeah. And that's called like planned obsolescence.
Wait, there's a term for it?
Yeah, there's a term.
I was
for it.
right. Yes.
It's planned obsolescence, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it actually takes a lot of engineering, sophisticated engineering, to be able to figure out, is this going to last 100,000 miles, 200,000 miles, whatever that happens to be.
Man, there's engineering in everything then.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few things out there that aren't engineered.
Yeah.
Have somebody, actually sitting down and working through everything.
So you helped to design, you work in the oil fields now?
I do now, yeah.
So you helped to design this machine. I was looking at it. I was watching the videos on it, and it screws the pipes that drill down. It screws them together. So what did they do before this machine?
That's a good question.
So I'll put a picture of this machine up, and it's pretty cool. It was very interesting to watch how it screwed the pipes together. Like they have to be a certain tightness, like it has to have a certain power. And I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So the basically in drilling for oil, you got a drill bit, and then you've got drill pipe, and you just keep adding that until you get to the depth that you want to get to, and where your oil
what's
is.
The depth that oil usually sits at?
It depends it depends on the formation, depends on where you're drilling. Like land drilling, a lot of times there's a lot of rigs out there that'll drill to 5,000 feet.
Wow. And
offshore you may be drilling in 5,000 feet of water before you even hit the actual seafloor, and then you're going out 10, 13,000 feet, something like that.
Okay, so you designed this, well, you helped design, or did you design the whole thing?
I was part of a relatively small team that designed that, right?
Awesome.
So it was me and probably 2 or 3 engineers, mechanical engineers, 2 or 3 designers, a hydraulics expert, controls expert, and electrical guy. Okay,
so what did they do before? Because this machine is pretty dope. I'll put a video up, like on the side, so people can watch it. And but what did they do before that? How did they tighten those pipes before that?
Old school was
a pipe wrench.
Not far off of that. Like
really?
not with, and they probably like very old. It probably was by hand. But what they would do is, so you've got 2 steps in that operation, right? So what you're going to do is you need to spin it up, and that's just shouldering it, and it's kind of lower torque for what you're doing. And then you've got to actually torque it to what it needs to be at in order to stay together downhole. So what they used to do is they would actually take a chain, like a chain, and they would wrap it around the base of that. And then they would drop the pipe in there, and then these guys would like flick it, and then it would start wrapping around the upper portion of it. And you can find videos of this on YouTube if you look at like chain and tong makeups and breakouts, stuff like that. Yeah, that's what they would do. And so they'll they'll like flip it, and it looks really cool. They're really good at it, and to be able to it'll start to wrap around the top, and then what they do is you get a guy that holds that chain, and they've got another winch that they pull on it, and they just pull that chain, and it just starts to shoulder it all the way up, and then the guy holds the chain on the pipe with his hands.
Oh,
and so you've got the spinning pipe.
Let me ask you this: was there damage to people's hands doing that?
A lot, yeah, a lot of damage. It used to be in the oil field. You would say you could tell how long a guy had been a roughneck by how many fingers he had.
Bro, I've seen people. I've worked.
Yep.
I used to be a welder, so I've seen people. He had like this one was half, this one was here, and I was like, man.
So a lot of people were losing a lot of fingers, and there was a show on a couple of years ago. I think it was called Black Gold or something like that. And it was about like drilling contractors. And there was a guy that actually got hurt. I don't think he lost his eye, but he had really bad damage to his eye because the chain broke and it came off and hit him in the face. Oh. And he was wearing, I think he was wearing a hard hat and safety glasses, but still, I think it ended up like breaking that part of his cheek. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, it's actually really, really dangerous to do that.
I've also worked in environmental health and safety, so I saw. Yeah, I've seen some bad stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad injuries.
So this machine helps, so they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So the original versions of that were hydraulically actuated, and so you just have a control box in the side of it, and you would walk out with it, and then you would spin the pipe together. So it's got a set of 4 rollers that clamp on the pipe and spins it up, it shoulders it up, and that's like, it's kind of hard to tell how much torque is required. It's anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 foot-pounds is what we actually spin that up with, and it really depends on how much weight is on that pipe that's up above. So modern, like the older drilling rigs, were drilling with what's called singles, and so that is 30-foot pieces of pipe. Okay. And then there were doubles rigs, that's 2 30-foot pieces, triples rigs, and quads. And so you could have like 120 feet of pipe, a 5-inch diameter pipe, and however much that weighs,
that's a lot. I know
it's a lot of weight, and and there's
so what do they use now?
The big offshore rigs are quads, so they're using they're drilling with 4 stands. Okay. So it's 120 feet, and it depends on the diameter and size of the pipe you're drilling with. It can be anywhere from, I think on the low end, it can be down to like 8 pounds per foot, or there's some that's like close to 35, 40 pounds per foot. Wow. So it can be very, very heavy. And that's what determines how much torque it takes to actually spin it up, because it's just weight on that thread and friction.
That's crazy. So you enjoy working on this stuff like this?
I do, yeah.
More than cars?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, if it's a machine, I'm interested in it, right? So
that's cool.
Yeah, I could be, it could be oil and gas equipment. It could be, spaceships. It could be cars. It could be whatever it is. Yeah. One of the things that I like about the oil and gas industry is because you've got such small teams working on stuff, and so you've got so much more ownership over the design, right? And it's a lot more fun to be like, look at this machine that I've designed, as opposed to look at this car handle I designed, or the transmission, or the engine that I
one
designed.
Piece of a whole, right?
It's one piece, right? And so you get a lot more ownership over the whole thing, and even the parts that I didn't design, I still had input on. And so whether it's the hydraulic system, I didn't design that. I'm not a hydraulics expert by any means, but I can have the conversation with them in terms of how it needs to work and what it needs to do, and we can develop that plan together.
So you've always liked to know how things work.
Yeah.
Like this internal combustion engine, I want to know why this moves the pistons, and just give an example, like things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and even down to simple stuff, right? So like I, as a like 3-4 year old kid, the pins that like you click and
the
like
pen,
click pins or whatever. Like every single one I get my hands on, I was taking apart. I'm taking them apart. I'm looking at the springs. I'm looking at the mechanisms. I'm figuring out how they work, and like that, and my toys.
Yeah.
Like the fun part about my toys was taking them apart and figuring how they work, and see if I could put them back.
Mine
together.
was taking them apart, but I wasn't able to put them back together. And
I mean that's always a it depends how successful you are at actually getting them back together.
But I really believe that a lot of successful people, it has to do with their parents. Because if your parents saw that and they talked about it with you, like you like to see how things work.
Yeah.
Well, he could be like an engineer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of parents don't, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think some of the reason why I was able to do what I do and be successful like I am is because of my parents. I mean,
sure.
One of the things, I mean, from us growing up, so I was born in West Virginia, and a town called Huntington, and that's only been famous. There's a Netflix documentary on that town for it's called Heroin.
Something bad happened.
Yeah, it's called Heroin, and the county that it's in has got per capita the highest overdose rate on heroin and fentanyl in the U.S.
In Virginia,
West Virginia.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just Appalachian. There's a lot of blue collar workers. There's a lot of people that got, injured on the job and, painkillers and then got addicted to them. And,
I understand. I was a fighter.
It's just,
and I used to eat painkillers all the time. I don't anymore. And I've never tried heroin because I know I would like it. So I was like, I'm not doing it.
Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that my parents did is, I mean, that's where our family's from for generations. And my dad kind of looked around. My dad's a professional. He's an economist. But he, he looked around and he's like, look, I don't know. Like, my friends aren't really like professional stuff. I mean, we had some work friends, economists and maybe engineers, but like the vast majority of the people we knew weren't, they had very blue collar type jobs, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
And actually, I mean, to be honest with you, I think there's a significant lack of blue collar workers in the U.S. right now.
Nowadays,
now
everybody
it's
wants
bad.
to work on a computer or something, and we need people to turn wrenches too.
We do, but you also need. I think what you need is options, right? And so you need to be able to say, okay, well, I could be a welder, I could be a carpenter, I could be an engineer, and I could be a doctor.
Yeah.
And like all of those things are normal professions to be. But we only had that one example, right? Like you only had, well, I could be a carpenter. So anyway, they made the risk. They moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and then kind of growing up, and I knew engineers, and I knew dentists, and I knew doctors. They were like the friends, they were my friends' dads, and they were like normal people. And you get to realize that, like, even if you're a doctor, like people put doctors like, but this is just a guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy. He went to school. He worked really hard, and he studied really hard.
Yep.
But he's a guy, and
the nurse knows as much as the doctor.
more sometimes.
Yeah, they always tell me he's going to tell you this, and then that's exactly what he says.
Right. Yeah, I know. I got to be careful. I got my brother's a doctor. My sister's a nurse.
Yeah, that's
my
good,
sister-in-law's a nurse. So
That's good.
Nurses are great too.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Wow, but as I said before, your parents have a lot to do with this,
Yes.
And I always give this example. I do sports. I do Muay Thai as a sport. So, if you ever watch Tiger Woods, the Williams sisters, watch their dad when they were young. Look up videos. And like, he was this big. They were like, hey, no, you're going to go play golf. I don't want to. I want to play video games. I didn't ask you. You're going to go play golf.
Yeah.
And then they end up liking it, and then they end up doing great, So it's parenting. So that was good with you too.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. No. My parents definitely they pushed us really hard, which I think ultimately ends up being worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those things where my mom and my dad told me, like, at 18, you're out of here.
No, yeah.
You've got to figure out a plan. And so, like, from that, it was just like, I got to figure out a plan. And so,
I was like that too, but I didn't have no plan. I was smart, but I screwed off in school, and I should have. If I had something to do all over again, I would have did school. I would have taken school more seriously, and then I would have done whatever I want afterwards. I have something to fall back on,
Right.
I always tell the kids to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, school's really important. I think I had a sort of the unfortunate. I'll say this is unfortunate. It's not going to sound unfortunate, but like through high school, I was smart enough to attend school. So as long as I went and I sat there and I listened to the teacher, I could get A's. Like that's pretty much the level of work I had to put into it. Is show up, listen to what they said, put it down on a test, and I could get an A. And then I went to college, and that was
it's different.
It's a rude awakening.
They don't care if you come or not.
No, they don't. And I did. So at least I had built up that discipline of like, you go to class. And so I started off my freshman year, and like, well, okay, I did that. This will work. And so I showed up every day, went to class, took some notes, listened to what they said, took the tests, and did not do well. I didn't fail, but I didn't do well. I was getting like C's.
Ooh.
And so I had a scholarship. It's like one of these things in South Carolina. Like as long as you had a certain level of grades graduating high school, you got $5,000 or something like that. And so everybody gets it for that in South Carolina. And so I went to school. First semester you have to maintain a 3.0. So you got to get B's.
All right.
I'm getting C's.
Oh.
And like one B, 1 or 2 B's and mostly C's.
So what did you do to fix it?
Well,
or did you ever fix it?
Well, I did, but it basically took the rest of my college career to try to figure out even how to do it. Right. So I was never in danger of failing out of school or anything like that. But so like the first semester, it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I didn't pay enough attention. And then I'm going to make sure I'm really paying attention, take better notes. And I did that. And I had higher C's, but not really what I needed to. And I lost the scholarship. I never got the scholarship back. But then it's like, okay, well. Maybe.
So what'd you do? You had to go work and start paying for the school?
Loans, right? Like, that's the deal, right?
Yeah. I got you.
And so, the sophomore year, it's basically like, well, okay, maybe I should start this studying thing. And
good idea.
Well, yeah, it's a good idea, but then like the thing is, I was like, okay, well, how do I study? And so, I know people go to the library, so I went to the library and you open the books and you start to, and so it took me probably until midway through my junior year to like actually figure out how to effectively study for a test, because I'd never studied before, so I had no idea how to study.
Oh yeah, you just paid attention in class.
Yeah, all I did is pay attention in class. Nice. And so, that's not enough. You've got to actually go back and study the work. And then it's not just looking at a book. You have to like actually learn how to study and how to read and figure out what's important and then how it works and all that kind of stuff. And, by my senior year, I was making pretty good grades. I was an AB student by my senior year.
Nice.
Never, graduated, GPA never recovered, right? I think I ended up graduating with like probably a 2.8 or something like that.
Oh,
so
damn.
Not the greatest GPA in the world, but it's also it's probably pretty close to average, I would say.
But that Elon Musk said, he said, you could have a college degree and still be an idiot, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. and that's. And maybe it's a little bit of my bias because I had a lower GPA.
Wait, I'm not saying you are. Yeah. I mean, I'm saying you could have a low grade and still be smart guy too. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying though. Is
don't take it like that.
When I hire engineers, because I'm a manager now, so I actually hire engineers, and I tend to gravitate towards the people in the middle GPA range.
Oh yeah.
And the reason for that is like when you needed to have fought for it, right, in order to get your degree.
A what?
You needed to fight for it. You needed to really struggle to get that degree, because, and not to say that some people who are 4.0s didn't struggle to keep that 4.0, because that's what that was their mission, that's what they were gonna do. But I think there's certainly ways of gaming college in such a way of like making sure your GPA is up and where you care more about.
You figured it out as a senior though.
Yeah, I did. But
hey, at least you figured it out.
I did. But there's people who come out with 4.0s that aren't as good as people who have 2.8s, 3s, 3.2s, stuff like that. And because the reality is you're going to come against, like in the real world, you're going to come against problems that you're not smart enough to solve. And I've solved many problems that I wasn't smart enough to solve, in the sense where you sit down and you go, okay, here's the calculations. This is exactly, and you got it right the first time. Like there's problems where like you have to just beat your head against it until it's done, and you have to figure it out.
So I opened this gym in the middle of COVID when it first hit.
Okay.
And yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Like you have to get permits. You have to do this. You have to do that. Build the place. All this. And I had no idea. But same like that, right?
Yeah.
Same thinking. So I'm going to ask you something. Mobile oil changes, dude. I was reading about that.
Oh yeah,
That's a good idea.
That's my idea that I don't want to do, but I think that's going to be. I think that's a great idea because I would use it. I'd be a customer, and I'm kind of cheap, and I would pay extra for that.
The only thing that would be the hard part about this is that I was reading it is getting the oil. You have to have the proper oil for certain cars and filters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that it would have to be pre-ordered. Like you have to next week on Saturday. You're going to come here. I have this kind of car or whatever.
I think you have to do a subscription-based service for it.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to go. So if you go to like just an oil change place, if you look at what they've got there, they've usually got like 2 or 3 grades of oil, and that's all they've got.
Yeah.
And so like all you'd have to have is 2 or 3 grades of oil, and I think you'd be able to do it. And I think the other thing is you've got to you would have to realize your business isn't for everybody. Like what it is, your customer is going to be. Your customer is going to be somebody who works in an office building with a lot of cars there because you want to be able to do not one car at one business at one time. What you want to do is you want to do like 100 cars in a day. And have,
I mean that would be optimum, but you could also go house to house and do it at somebody's house.
Yeah, I think
you'd have to charge them a little more.
You'd have to charge them more. Do we want to tell it like everybody's not knows what we're talking about? Do they?
Changing the oil?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he has an idea for a business. If you look at his website, thejakeadkins.com, he has a blog post on there about mobile oil changes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to drive anywhere. You just go to your office and you have somebody drive up and change a bunch of people's oil. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a business idea that I want somebody to do. And the reason I wrote it is like, somebody please take this idea and do it because I have no desire to run that business company at all.
I have the 65 Cadillac. It's 18 and a half feet long and I can change the oil. But I don't want to.
Right.
I want to pay somebody.
Right.
Like, you do it. I don't want to do it.
Right.
And these guys are like, I don't want to do it.
Well, and it's also getting harder to dispose of your oil properly, right? I mean, so like just finding somewhere like you can change it, but then you got to go and like, you used to be like any mechanic could take it, but now they don't want to take it because they want, they want the oil change. They want the business, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't want to do that. And so it's gotten to the point where I just take my car in. It's not
That's
hard.
a great idea, dude. That's a good idea. Man, let me take a back step.
Yeah.
I was never the smartest guy in the world, but listen, in engineering school, how do they teach you how to figure things out? Like what do they teach? My brain is like, I don't get it. How do they teach you how to engineer that light stand right there or something?
So the reality is that they don't, right? And so this is one thing that we talk about when we hire new grads and everything like that. The one thing, when you graduate engineering school, people will assume I'm an engineer now. It's like, no, you're not.
Until you're working.
Right, well, not even until you're working. It's about 4 years after you work.
What?
About 4 or 5, 6 years, depending on the person. After you work, now you're an engineer. So what engineering school does is it gives you a set of tools to then learn how to be an engineer. And you learn how to be an engineer on the job.
I'm lost, man. So how do they, what set of tools do they give you?
Yeah. So if you're going to be a mechanical engineer, you're going to start off with some very basic classes. Vector dynamics is one of the things, and it's basically how do you determine forces in a system. And so, I've got a linkage and I push here. How do I know what the force back here is? How does it react?
Oh, that makes sense.
And so you figure out, and so they teach you a methodology of how to trace the forces back and into that end point, and depends on how it's connected. Also depends on what its reaction is. And then you'll have one that's that's dynamics. And so it's like, okay, well, now this system is not static anymore. Now it's moving. And so there's moving parts in it. And how do you determine what the forces are in there? And then you'll take a class on material properties. And so you'll learn all about metal and plastic and ceramics and all kinds of stuff like that. And you'll take some stress analysis stuff. So now that you know what the force is, how do you know what the stress is inside of this part? And so now you've got kind of two tool sets, right? You've got the material side of things and you've got the stress analysis side of things. And so now you can say, okay, the stress in that part is this. The material needs to be this strong.
And they teach you how to figure that out.
Right.
That makes more sense. Because when people always say, I'm an engineer, I'm like, what kind of engineer? Like doing what? What do you do?
Yep.
You know? And there's so many different ones.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of different kinds of engineering, and if you're a civil engineer, you're going to take some of the same courses, right? You still need you still need the part about vector dynamics. You still need some materials, but your material class is going to then be concentrated more on steel and concrete because that's primarily what
buildings
you're building on.
and bridges and stuff. And there's some amazing bridges. There's one here in Houston.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool bridges here.
Or Baytown.
Did you see? There's one. I think it was on the Beltway. They're extending the Beltway, and they're having to tear it down.
A big bridge?
Yeah, a big bridge. They didn't have it completed. There's a bridge here in Houston.
So there's more of our tax dollars gone, a whole half a bridge.
Well, they're suing the engineering company for it, right?
Did they build?
So they and I don't exactly know the details of it, but this engineering firm, I think they were out of Florida, they had innovated this method of building bridges where they're building sections of it like in a factory and then having them shipped out. And you see that a lot, but it's supposedly, I think it was bigger sections than they normally do.
Right. Trying to cut the time down for the build time.
Right. Probably. Yeah. Cause that's a huge amount of the cost is building that stuff and pouring the concrete on site. And the other thing is though, is that, concrete is, when it cures, it doesn't, it's not, it's just liquid for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah.
It takes like 28 days to come up to hardness. So you pour a section of it and then you wait for 28 days until you can do the next section of it. Whoa. And so that's why some of these bridge constructions take forever because every time they make pours, every time you take a pour, well, it's like, okay, well, let's wait a month.
Yeah, and then
let that cure.
We'll make the next
section. The next section of it. Yeah. So, whatever they did, there was a collapse in Florida where the first bridge that they built like that happened. And so they paused the construction on this one here in Houston. And
they were using the same method.
Yeah, same method here in Houston.
Oh, sure.
And they had a third-party engineering firm take a look at it and go, you can't do this, guys. And so anyway.
Did anybody get hurt on that other one?
I don't know.
Man, that's
I don't know. I have to
part.
look it up. Hopefully not, right?
Because we got to trust y'all engineers with our life sometimes.
You do. Well, you do, right? I mean, so, whether you're, every time you drive a car, you're trusting a set of engineers that it's going to, the brakes are going to work.
Not my 65 Cadillac. I hear a new noise and I'm like, I'm in danger. But anyway, yeah.
Right. I mean, you got brakes working. You've got, even if you got in a crash, hopefully the structure's enough to protect you and crumple and everything
Absolutely.
like that. So I mean, yeah, it's engineering is a huge responsibility to take on, and you can't do it lightly.
So have you ever invented anything?
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of the difference, I think, between there is a difference between an inventor and an engineer.
But you can invent it and engineer it, though.
Right? I can. Although I will say I tend to not be the best inventor.
Okay.
I'm more of the guy that you say I have an idea. And this is my problem.
Let's make this shit happen.
Like, yes,
nice,
exactly.
Okay,
right. And so I can make it happen.
Okay.
But coming up with the idea isn't really my strong suit. I mean, I've come up with ideas, but I will say coming up with ideas within the context of designing something is really easy for me. But the very initial thing of like, if you were to say something like, oh, you know what? we should have, we should have these things that are like carriages, but they move on their own without horses. Like, I probably wouldn't have been that guy.
So you weren't Henry Ford. You couldn't design a car?
I probably wouldn't have been the guy with inventing a car, but I would have designed a car. If Henry Ford said to me, "Hey, I need a carriage and I need you to put an engine in it, and I want it to move on its own," I can say, "Let's do it. I can do that."
Okay, that's crazy to me. I have one of my old fighters. He's really good at that kind of stuff. He can look at, like he did it on our cars sometimes. He looked at this. Oh yeah, I can fix it. We take it apart. I'm like, how did you figure that out, dude? I'm not that good. I think some people are just inclined to that.
I think so. I think there's absolutely a level of curiosity about specific things, right? I mean, because not everybody's interested in the same things, right? And I can't explain why, right? I mean, there's people who are like super into, like Matchbox cars or something.
Boxing.
Like that, right?
Or fighting.
I mean, although I mean, it's at least to me that's interesting to watch, right?
Yeah.
It's fun to watch. I've never done it, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if it interests you, and especially engineer, you do pretty well, right?
You financially, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those careers where you're probably not going to get like rich. Like, I'm not buying an island,
right?
But I'm not worried about paying my house payment.
Well, I think my opinion, rich is something completely different. But I think that being financially stable is a huge burden off of your shoulders. Like when I mean, I've been homeless a bunch just because I was going around fighting. I didn't even live anywhere. That's just my life. But when a light bill comes in and I don't have to worry, I just have to pay it. Right. It's a huge burden, man, off your shoulders.
It is, so. Yeah. And like, well, and also you've got to put in context, what do you mean by rich? Because I think it's like almost anybody in America is super rich compared to global standards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I looked this up and I'm probably not going to get into the numbers right, but,
well, did you know that 72% of all statistics are made up on the spot?
Made up on the spot?
I just made that up.
It's something like, it's a shockingly low amount of money to
That's my dog. He's loud.
If you make a certain amount of money, you're in the top 10% of income earners on the planet, and it's a shockingly low amount. Like, it's something where in America we would be like, ooh, things must be tight. So I'm not going to say the number. It's like in the $30,000 range,
But there's also a catch in that statement, because I've been all over the world. I've stayed in Thailand for a while and bought food from a girl who was 7 because she had to work all day,
right,
and make food. And instead of the food that they gave me, because I wanted to give her money. The rest of the food was good, but the difference is this. $30,000 a year here in America. It's a lot. If I had $30,000 a year in Thailand,
oh yeah,
and they're like, "You're rich. You have $30,000 a year," but it doesn't equate to that here.
No,
it equates to where you are there.
Right. It's your cost of living that you're in, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, if you making even in the U.S., if you make $30,000 in Houston versus making $30,000 in New York City, like those are very different lifestyles.
You're not making it.
No,
I know. My brother used to live in New York City.
Yeah, no, it's
crazy.
It's insane.
So what else do you like to do?
I'm kind of ADD in my interests, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I kind of just follow like anything that is interesting.
Do you ADD on one thing?
Yeah, like I'll get into something for a little bit and then move on to the next thing and then move on to the next thing. And what I would say is it's probably more about learning than it is about like that interest, right? So I'll learn about stuff for some amount of time and then move on to the next thing.
I know. I was looking at your reading list. You read a lot of books too.
I do. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way I can justify a long commute is audiobook. So I don't read.
I was going to say commute and reading.
Yeah, I claim I read them, but it's really audiobooks.
I do too. I do audiobooks too because, man, I used to love to read, and now I just read, and I'm like, I don't want to read anymore.
Well, and it's also like kind of this idea of found time, right? Like I drive an hour to work. And
damn.
So, yeah, I know.
You must live in Houston.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So I got an hour, and like what I could do is I could listen to sports radio, I could listen to like music,
Or you could learn.
or I could learn something. And so yeah, I end up reading between 50 and 60 books a year doing that.
Wow.
And so it's some of it's not learning, right? Some of it's just like goof.
Yeah, I mean,
like science fiction.
You have to enjoy it too.
Yeah. Some of it's science fiction. I just finished a book that's it was brutal to get through. It's called The Wages of Destruction. And
Okay, I saw that. I didn't know what it's about.
Yeah, it's a economic analysis of the Nazi war economy.
Boy,
Yeah, and
that seems.
I looked at how long it ended up being. It was like 30 hours if you listen to it at 1.5 speed. It's like 1,040 pages.
Oh, I bet your dad would like it though.
Yeah, my dad. Yeah, I told him about it. He's like, oh, yeah, that'd be so cool. But
So
yeah,
what was the
interesting.
analysis? It
So
cost the whole world a lot of money, didn't it?
it cost the whole world a lot of money.
Yeah.
But what the analysis was is what he was doing is he was looking at you look at like some of the military strategies that they had and some of the decisions they made, and you're like, why?
Which ones? The Nazis?
The Nazis. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, why would they have done that?
Okay.
Because if you look at what they did, they built this huge big war machine, and the reality is like in like 1938, 1939, they kind of peaked, and they invade Poland and they take over Poland in like 3 weeks, and then they look to the west and they go, okay, well, Belgium and Netherlands and France, and they take them over in like 6 months. And like, so they've basically got Western Europe locked up at that point. And then they go and invade Soviet Union. And you're like, why? Why did you do that? Like, that doesn't even make sense, because Britain's not, like at that point, Britain is not going to come to a treaty with you. Like, that was known. The United States was not in the war at the time, but they were going to support Britain financially and through our massive manufacturing facilities, right? And so why would you not just keep your attention focused on the West?
So what was the verdict?
So what the reason was is what they realized, they didn't have enough coal and they didn't have enough oil. And so
But Russia does.
Russia does.
Ah.
And so that was the decision that they made, because like, okay, if we get in a prolonged war, we've got tanks, we've got airplanes, and we've got all this stuff, and we've got ships, but we don't have gas for them. We don't have fuel for the airplanes. We don't have fuel for the tanks. And if they cut us off, well, they don't do any good.
Yeah.
And so that's why economically they had to invade Russia in order to get, and they also were having, because of the massive buildup of the army, they didn't have enough people to farm. And so that's why Ukraine was part of that. So they invade Ukraine and they go down to the Caucasus and Baku, where the oil is. And so Ukraine has had a huge amount of farming, very productive farmland in Ukraine. And so that's why they took over Ukraine, was for food, and the Caucasus, and down in Baku, that's why they took over that for the oil.
And then their downfall was?
Well, I mean, basically their downfall was that economically they're never going to be able to do it. And they didn't realize that Britain and the U.S. were going to be able to build enough of everything that it didn't matter what they destroyed. We could make enough that they couldn't destroy it all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's
that book was more interesting than you thought.
It takes 1,040 pages to get to like a 2-minute summary of it, but yeah, that was. And then I've since moved on to a science fiction book that my daughter recommended.
So
to me.
what are you into now, like into learning about now?
Honestly, I go, it's just kind of whatever's interesting. What a lot of stuff I've been reading about, I've been reading a lot of biographies on musicians lately. And,
right.
And what I think is really interesting about musicians. So I've read you read actors, musicians, stand-up comedians, actors, those autobiographies or biographies of them. And what I find really interesting is the process that they go through in order to create whatever it is that doing, right, whether it be a song or a act or a play or something or a TV show, is really actually very, very similar in process to what I do as an engineer.
You engineered it out.
Yeah,
you
it's
the
like,
process.
Well, it's
Nice.
it's kind of this creative process of like continued refinement in terms of figuring out what it is. And so you think about like whatever it is that somebody's made, and the end product is really good. It's really a great product. If it's a great song, it's a great, it's a great machine. It's whatever it is. The reality is like it started off terrible.
Yeah.
Like it really
Yes.
did. Like the first iteration of your song or your book or your act or your Iron Roughneck, like it wasn't very good. And it was just through methodical refining of it, and then really a set of really brutal self-honesty of like, I didn't do very good on this, and being able to admit that to yourself and say like, that's not good.
So I play bass, okay? So
Okay.
I like slap bass, So I play bass, and I equate a lot of things in life to music. I even equate sports. We do Muay Thai. Everything in life. Look, when I learn a song, and I like to play the hardest stuff out there because I'm just mental and I'm not that good. But anyways, so I learned this. It takes me a week to get this 1 20-second part. And do you think that I play it once? No, I play it about 50,000 times before
Right.
I even get it close to what it is, and slow, and then pick it up. And that's with everything in life.
Yeah.
Like you learn how to do something, you learn piece by piece, and it takes a while. People get discouraged because I didn't learn how to box in 2 months, or
Right.
I wasn't an engineer in a month.
Right, yeah.
You have to dedicate some time to it and do things over and over until you get it.
Yeah, and you have to do them really badly.
Bro.
And like,
yes.
right? And like a lot of times you end up getting your ass kicked by whatever it is that you're trying to do.
For sure. Yeah.
And not once, but like a lot.
Bro, so you know how many times I've been beat up learning how to box? I mean, it's everything in life.
Yeah.
When I first played bass, man, I hope there's no videos of that. It's terrible, But if you push through that,
Yeah.
and then just keep going, and then you'll get better.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I come across drawings that I did, engineering drawings that I did,
Yeah.
at the beginning of my career, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, this is, but it's all a learning process, and
That's right.
like you go through it, and you build these things, and then you test them, and they don't work, and that's kind of the we have kind of a mantra at my company in terms of if you build something and you test it and it breaks, you learn something. And if it passes the first time, you didn't learn anything. You just did it right, and you haven't learned anything. And so that's kind of the way we go about it. Is like,
what's crazy is we have that saying in fighting too. You either win or you learn.
yeah,
So it's the same kind of saying. Well, you shouldn't have done this, and you got hit and you got knocked out or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's everything in life.
yeah,
It's attached, man. It's smart.
yeah. All the stuff that you learn, and in boxing or music or sports, whatever it is, it all applies to like whatever you're doing in life.
See, you guys, everybody could be smart like this guy. All right, you just have to practice and fail and fail and fail until you get it. Right?
Right? Yeah.
I totally agree with that. So what are you guys working on now? You work for oil and gas?
Yeah. So I work for an oil and gas company, and
Anything like super interesting, innovative?
Yeah. Unfortunately, not anything I talk about, right? Until
Yeah, I know. Damn it, I tried.
So, yeah. So I mean, we're working with some really cool stuff. I mean, we're doing some stuff on energy transition, and
Which is
I think if you're in oil and gas, and at this point you get to look at it, it's like, okay, the reality is that oil will never go away.
Yeah.
Never, right? Whether we're going to need oil for, just fueling your classic cars. There's going to be classic cars out there that people want to drive. So you're going to have some, but the classic car market on gas is not huge. But the other thing is you need a lot of the stuff that we have, derivatives. People think of oil and gas as gasoline and motor oil, right? And the reality is making a ton of other stuff out of that. There's some stuff that you look at, like what do you make out of a barrel of oil, and it's a huge amount of different
The big
stuff.
plastic too, right?
Oh yeah, tons of the plastic stuff. In a lot of the stuff that you need for wind turbines comes out of oil and gas. Like those are all, like the blades themselves are a huge oil and gas product.
So I heard a story that those blades are non-biodegradable and they're having a problem. Like they break down with them and they don't have anywhere to store them once they.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's that's something that we're going to have to learn going forward. Is what do you do with the waste of stuff? Honestly, I think if you were to ask me, like, what the right way to get off of carbon fuels is probably nuclear energy.
Yeah, but doing that safely is going to be tough.
It's one of those things where nuclear has got probably the worst name on a relatively safe product.
Now you think how is it relatively safe?
I think it is. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff, in terms of like Fukushima, like the number of people that died there, it's like between 0 and 3. Like there's some confusion about whether they died of radiation or not. A lot of the deaths were from evacuation, not from radiation. The cleanup mess wasn't too bad. It was.
But doesn't it kill everything in that area and like?
No, I mean it's not like it's just dead, right?
No?
I mean it's definitely not good for the environment when you have a spill, right? You don't want to do that. But the other thing is, I was like, some of the things, and I was listening to. So there's book I read really shaped my thinking on like what do you do about global warming, energy transition, things like that. It's a book called Apocalypse Never. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a dude, Michael Schulenberg, I think is his name. He's actually running for governor of California now.
Oh, yeah? Well, they need to get that one governor out of there.
Yeah, no, I really hope that guy wins. Schulenberg wins. I think that's his name. But he was like a hardcore radical environmentalist. And then over time transitioned into like a pragmatic, like, okay, global warming is a problem. It's real. It's a problem, but it's not going to really end the world. Like we're going to live, and I think that's probably true. And then what is the right path out of it? So what do you do about it? And renewables probably has a piece to play, and probably a big piece to play, but I think nuclear energy is a huge portion of that. I think there's a.
And how come people don't work on that? Like they're doing like Tesla cars.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tesla, I think is that's a huge piece of that. But it's like the question is where do you get the electricity, right?
I also heard that the batteries in the Tesla cars, they're having a problem disposing of them too, because once they're gone, they're bad forever. Yeah,
I mean, I think there is a certain amount where you're able to. You probably are going to be able to recover stuff out of that.
That's what I was thinking. They can't like renew those batteries or do something to make them new again.
Yeah, I think you can. I think there's probably some ways of getting in, and you're not going to be able to salvage everything, I don't think.
Yeah.
But what you're probably going to be doing is you're probably going to be breaking them down into their elements, and whether it's like the lithium or the nickel or whatever the ingredients of that are, you're probably going to need to break them down into their unique properties, and then refine those out
and reuse them. Yeah, because
so
if everybody goes Tesla and they don't have anything to do with those bad batteries when they're gone, they got to figure that out too.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing that you do that doesn't have a trade-off.
So what do you think it is with nuclear and why people won't do it?
I think it's really a political answer. Yeah. I mean, I think it's you've got some people who they don't want to have which I mean. I mean, ask yourself this question: is like, would you want to live right next door to a nuclear power plant? Like, no, probably not. And I might count myself in that same boat. But the failures that we've had, like, they're not totally out of control failures. Like they're not like that could have never been prevented. It's stuff that's like, we could have prevented. That could have been prevented. We've a lot of the failures happened on like old technology. I mean, you got to remember, it's like I mean, we've had internal combustion engines since like the late 1800s. And we've been refining that technology since the late 1800s. And you've had literally thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of engineers working on internal combustion engines from the late 1800s all the way up through today.
And they're still working
doing on it, right? And they're still making them better, making them safer, more reliable. But, the number of people who are working on nuclear reactors is very small. And we've only been doing it for like 70 years, and it's not been very well funded.
So you believe they could harness nuclear energy? We could make cars and planes and
planes are a little bit more difficult, right?
Maybe houses run on that kind of energy.
I think you could very certainly, with existing nuclear technology, generate the electricity for the United States.
Yeah,
yeah, all of it. I think it'd be
safely.
Yeah, safely.
There, you're an engineer. Let's make it happen.
So if you look at, the problem is that I don't have I don't know if you get to trillions of dollars, but several hundred billion dollars to build a reactor. I mean, I was looking at this the other day.
You can borrow it from Pfizer.
Yeah.
Well, let's not get into that. Okay.
No, I'm not going to get into that debate. But South Korea has, they've got a couple of, I want to say 6,000 megawatt nuclear power plants.
And what does it run?
Just general electricity. Right?
Yeah.
And so they power, and it's not all of their power, but it's a pretty big chunk of their power that they run for nuclear. And with 6,000 megawatts, I think you would need, it's like just to hit like what we use right now, and there's no safety factor or anything like that. I think you need like 80 of those to run the U.S.
Yeah.
So 80 power plants to run the whole U.S.
That's not very many.
No, it's not.
To run the whole U.S., that's not very many.
Yeah, and that's just like if we were all in one place, and you've got to do it. Geographically, there's geographic distribution of people, and you can't. You couldn't just stick one up in Montana, and there's like, for hundreds of. You have to actually do some more sophisticated knowledge, but just like on a like, this is the power, this is how much you would need. Just doing it on a napkin, it was something in the neighborhood of 80.
So you think that it's political? I think that oil is political too.
Oh yeah,
they make so much money off of this stuff that they can't look, if they stop doing cars with gas and oil, half the United States would shut down. It runs on that. That's one of the things that I think when you look at. You look at oil and gas, and that has powered our ability to become the society that we're in now, right? And just like going back, not even that long, the percentage of people who were involved in food production was huge number of people. And right now, I think it's less than 1% of the U.S. is involved in food production, actually firsthand producing food. So where do we get it from now?
We get it from
other countries?
No, we get it from the 1% of those people.
What?
Yeah, they're just because oil and gas has enabled, like you think of, you look at these, have you ever driven through West Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, where they've got just massive fields.
Yeah.
It's like two guys in a combine that harvest all of that stuff. And so you've got this huge amount of productivity, whereas if like you and me were out there with sickles,
oh my God, no.
And how many people would you need? And so you enable a very few number of people to become really, really productive. So productive that they can feed us, all of us. And then actually the U.S. is a food exporter. We make more food than we eat, and we export food to other countries. And so you have these super, super productive people that enable people to be engineers and not concerned about not even where can I buy, do I have enough money to buy food? But I can't buy food because there just isn't any. I have to go farm, and I spend all of my time farming, and not engineering stuff. And you'd spend all your time farming and not teaching
because we need food. Yeah,
you got to eat.
Man, I heard this. These crazy leftists, them people say, "What do I have to worry about farmers for? I get my food from the store."
Yeah.
I'm gonna bang my head against the wall. Man.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
mean, the
it's crazy.
yeah, I think there is a certain level of where I think it is really good that we are able to have those lives, but you do very much become detached from, your food sources, right? And
Yeah.
so, like when you go and eat meat, like you don't really, it's like that's beef. It's not a cow.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And so it,
Yeah,
it comes
you're right.
in like a nice prepackaged little thing. And
If I had to go kill that cow, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's kind of what I ended up doing was like, is just like, well, if I'm going to eat meat, I've got to at least kill something and eat it. And,
All right. You went hunting?
I did, and not successfully.
No, you didn't get anything?
No, but I've at least done. I've at least fished successfully, eaten
good.
the fish. So it's like, okay, I know a little bit about it, but I still go and don't shoot anything. Don't say anything.
It's weird. I wouldn't. I don't mind hunting or anything. My brother hunts and stuff, but I don't want to. I don't want to kill anything.
Yeah, I mean, I
just
get
don't.
that.
It's like
I
it's
get
a weird
that.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but like at the same time, it's like I feel like I think you. I mean, you are. If you eat meat.
I mean, yeah, you are
You're not a
anyway, but
vegetarian,
I'm not
you're killing
doing it
something.
myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not. Clearly not. Since I've not killed anything that's not a fish, I'm clearly not doing that. But I mean, at least be prepared to and like attempt to do it, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, I don't know this for really everybody, but at least for me, that was kind of my ethic on it.
Well, you went to try it at least.
I went to try and failed and continue to fail.
Well, these guys that go out hunting like for deer, they put out feeders.
Yeah.
So like it makes a noise. It goes "Zzz," and it throws corn.
Yep.
And it doesn't even have to have corn in it.
Yeah.
They hear the sound and they come running. Where's the deer going to be? It's going to be right there
Yep.
in the morning.
They set up a blind right across from a feeder, and it's in Texas. I don't think you really hunt deer; you harvest deer.
yeah.
It's very much more of a harvest than it is a hunt. I think it's a little bit different if you go. I've been bird hunting, dove hunting and stuff like that, and that's a little bit different because like you actually are like. You're going out there and you're like, okay, well, a dove like water and there's some shade here and I can be out of the thing and I can see, and I've taken some shots at them, but they were too far away and I wasn't able to get a dove.
And that's pretty cool. That's all right. Oh man, this is super interesting. I like to build things too. I built all this stuff, but
You did a good job.
I'm not that smart, dude. I can't build things. I think I'm a mechanic, and my mechanic laughs at me and said, "You messed this up, dude." Come on. I'm like, just fix it. Shut up.
Well, and I think that's that is a big misconception about engineers is they think other people are like, "Oh, you can fix that." I'm like, well.
Well, you could figure out how to fix it.
I can figure out how to fix it. I can usually figure out what's wrong with it. Fixing it's another problem, right? That's a whole other skill set to be able to actually fix things.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
I'm saying I'm mildly skilled at it, but not great.
Okay, so look, if you watch my podcast, have you watched any of them?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Because I always talk shit to people who don't.
No,
but
I didn't.
I had a bunch of my friends that are fighters. They fought all over the world and stuff like that, famous guys. But at the end, I have 10 questions that I ask people.
All right.
So question number 1 is, what's your favorite move? But what's your favorite move in engineering? What's your favorite thing that you've helped engineer? How about that?
Yeah, my favorite thing that helped engineer. I think. So you'd have to do some digging into some very particular industry publications, but we were part of doing this continuous tripping rig, and so
wait, continuous tripping?
Yes. So when you're drilling for oil, like I said, you put the drill pipe on there, you drill. And then you have to change the drill bit every now and again, or you're changing the size, or it's worn out. Various reasons why you have to do that. Well, pull all that pipe out. It's called tripping out. And so you pull it out, you break it up, and you're racking it back. And so what you do is you pull it up to a section, you stop it, you break it out with the iron rev rake, and then you set it back over on the setback.
And then you got to put it all back because you're.
Yep.
To replace the bit and put it all back down there. Right. Okay.
But there's this time where you're pulling it out of the hole and then you stop and you're going to make it up or break it out. set it back, and then you pull it up a bit and you stop, and you pull it up and stop. And so there's this whole stopping thing.
Yeah.
So we were part of designing a rig that the drill floor actually went up and down. And so what you would do is like the drill floor would come up, and so as you're coming up, you're breaking out that piece of pipe, and it's still pulling pipe out of the hole, and you hand that off, and then you grab it, and the drill floor comes down, and it still is pulling out of the hole, and so it never stops
to grab the next one.
Yeah.
So it makes it more efficient.
Yeah, so you never actually stop when you're pulling it out, so it's always coming out of the hole at the same time.
And they have that now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we did that and commissioned it. I don't think they're using it because it was.
I was going to say, is it widely used or no?
No, it's only on one rig in the world, and I don't know exactly why. It was probably a business decision.
Probably cost too much.
Yeah. I don't think it certainly wasn't cheap.
Yeah, but I mean, if the price outweighs.
Right.
The other price.
I think it has to do with the drilling contractor being able to market that to an oil company at a higher day rate in order to make that equipment pay for itself, right? And so, if they don't, if I spend, $100 million on a rig, and the next guy spends $50 million on a rig, well, I can't necessarily, if mine does exactly the same as the $50 million rig is, I can't charge a higher day rate because it does exactly the same thing. So, that's always the equation of how much do you spend on that equipment.
For sure.
How much do you make out of it? Yeah.
Okay. Now, question number 2 is, that's a pretty good answer too, man. Question number 2 is, what's the least favorite thing you've ever worked on and done?
Least favorite thing. It's like in oil and gas in the last 7 years, it's been a pretty tough environment. It starts to look like we're doing better now. But we laid off a lot of people, and I had to deliver that news to a lot more people.
That's not fun.
No, that's probably the worst thing that I ever had to be part of in my career, because it's not like you're firing somebody, right? Where they did something wrong. Yeah, they're not meeting expectations.
We don't have the work.
We don't have the work.
The money right now.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like, look, I've got, at the height of the oil boom, we had 60,000 employees at my company.
60,000?
Yeah. And I think it's like, we're like 50% of that. And so the reality is like, yeah, we could probably pay you for a little bit, but then everybody's out of a job. The rest of them. And so, that's the hardest thing I've ever done is just laying off somebody who we don't have the money to pay you. And in order to preserve the jobs of these people, you don't get to have a job.
Yeah.
So
I was a welder. I've been laid off a lot. It just happens. Yeah, but I wouldn't like to tell everybody.
No. It's the only people who had a worse day than the managers that had to do the laying off are the people who actually got laid off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing that I hated about the construction industry. A lot of my friends and everybody were like, "I don't care. I'll just go get another job." But I stressed out not having a job. I stressed out, and then I have to stress out every month. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, and it's hard on it's hard on employees who who they don't know, right? It's not like we're all talking in public who's getting laid off and they don't know. And I have there's people I know who are here on H-1B visas, and to be honest, like they're excellent engineers, really good engineers, and really good married, kids, everything, like exactly what you would want to have as a person who lives in the U.S. But the reality is, being on H-1B visa, if you get laid off, you have 30 days to have a job or you leave the country.
Bro.
And so you got people who have built lives around living here and having having the dream of being an American citizen, and they've come here and they've built their lives. They bring a valuable skill. They're making they're working. They pay taxes too, and it's like 30 days, get another job, and or you're out of the country.
Yeah, I would not like to deliver that news. To
No,
you.
and
Wow.
like it's like
Now, do they have to get another engineering job or any job?
I think it's any job, but the reality is like
They want engineers
because
here,
they have to be sponsored, right?
Okay.
You have to be sponsored by a company, and in order to do that, the company has to be able to say, with a straight face, we can't find somebody in America to do this job. Like this person has qualifications. That's an H-1B visa.
Oh.
They have qualifications that I can't really get. And like if they were to go, like Burger King isn't going to say that, right? Because you have to we actually pay money. We pay the legal fees in order to pay for those visas and everything like that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 3. You have good, great answers, dude. Question number 3. What would you like to accomplish?
Oh, what would I like to accomplish? It's like I would really like to be a part of the U.S. coming back as a manufacturing country.
Yeah.
I like that we build. I like it when we build stuff here. I'm squeaking all over your table here.
Right.
Yeah, I really like it when we build stuff here, and I drive by a old factory of ours, and we used to build electrical equipment in a factory, and they do this downturn, and we didn't have the work. We actually closed the factory, sold the property, and there is it's a storage place now, and it's like every day it breaks my heart. I see that, and I'm like.
Well, because they get it cheaper from other countries. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. I mean, to be honest, this is another thing. It's like, so you kind of going back to the environmental thing, which I am a proponent because I like clean air and I like clean water.
Yeah.
I don't like I don't want to go back to. Early 1900s, late 1800s, where in Ohio there's a river that caught fire. I think multiple times it caught fire because there's so much pollution in that. I was like, no, we're not going back to that.
No.
But we passed environmental regulations, and we pat ourselves on the back, and we say, oh yeah, we're doing great. But what we don't do is we don't put any regulations on going to countries that don't have environmental regulations. And so what you ultimately end up doing is not really even reducing pollution, because
You're reducing it here.
you're reducing it here.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, you're making it worse because
Because they have less emission laws. So
Right. Right.
So have you ever, probably not, but let me ask anyway. Have you ever been to Bangkok, Thailand?
No.
Have you ever been to Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been when the smog is so thick you can't see the Hollywood sign in Hollywood?
No, not that.
Okay.
When I'm in California, I'm in LA area. I'm usually in Orange County.
Yeah.
So not up by
That's really nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
But yeah, I've seen the smog.
So Bangkok is 10 times worse.
Yeah.
They have tuk-tuks. You know what a tuk-tuk is?
Yeah, the
It's
little
a
scooter thing,
little
three-wheeled.
motorcycle with a car in the back.
Yeah.
It's just pumping black smoke out of
Yeah.
it. That's how it is.
Right.
All the cars. There's no emission laws.
Right.
And then I say, why do we have all these laws in America? And I like to keep the air clean too, but they're not doing it.
No.
So
Yeah, and I don't think the infrastructure bill that was passed. I think it was when it was like over the summer. I think it was passed or fall. I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of stuff that was in there, but some of the early drafts, they had what was called a polluter import tax, and so. What that is basically like, look, you can make whatever you want to make wherever you want to make it. That's fine. But if you make it in a country that has more pollution than us, there's a tariff on it. And
that's wicked smart. Did they pass it?
No, that was pulled out of the bill.
not.
Yeah. No, I think that's something we really, really need.
Shit, that's smart, dude.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I think it makes sense. I think you're able to go make anything you want to make in any country you want to make it. But you can't pass, those negative externalities on to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just say like, well, I'm going to make it in X country and they're going to dump everything into the river. Well, you know where the river goes? It goes in the ocean,
the ocean.
and it's the same ocean that we have. and it's you're getting heavy metal in the same fish that we eat when we fish for stuff. So yeah, I mean that's a huge problem. I think is not environmental regulations, but environmental regulations that incentivize you to go and make something in a place that doesn't have them.
Well, again, that's about money. I believe it's.
But yeah,
well, we don't want to pass that law because we want to make money because we're making money off of these guys that are doing that. So let them keep doing it.
Yeah, but it also comes down to you and me, though. I mean, I think it's real easy.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing: like you go to a store, right, and you're going to buy, it doesn't exist. But say there was a cell phone that was built in America, and chips.
It doesn't exist. No, it doesn't.
No, and I'm talking chips, frame, assembly, all of that stuff. The cost of that cell phone, and say it's say Apple does it. If you're an iPhone guy, Apple does it, and they've got two phones. It's the same iPhone. One's built in a country that's polluting. The other cell phone's built in America.
I already know where you're going with this.
And the one that's built in America is more money.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it's probably not $1 more. It's going to be more. I don't think it's going to be twice, but it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a significant amount more. And are you going to buy the one that's made in America?
Well, no, poor people aren't. Poor people are going to buy the cheapest one.
Right.
And, but if it's the same phone,
the same phone.
I think both, even rich people would buy the
I think so. And so I think it ultimately it comes down to us like choosing those things, right?
But if they put that tariff on those other, it would hurt them, and then it would start a whole world thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but it's complicated how to do that. But I do think it's it's like I look at look at the clothes you buy, right? You buy like Levi jeans, they're built somewhere outside the country, but there's people who make jeans in America.
Yeah,
and they're more.
I thought Levi's were in America.
I don't think they're made in America. No, I think they're probably Thailand or Vietnam or something like that. I think. I would guess. I don't know. I'm not wearing Levi's, so
I have no idea.
But yeah, I mean, there's companies that make jeans in Detroit.
Well, it's all about money. Where they can do it cheaper is where they're going to do it, and if they can pass the savings on to us, of course, that's what we're going to buy.
Right, that's what we're going to buy. Yeah, and that's why Levi's or Nikes and all that kind of stuff, people buy those. But people make stuff in America, and we don't buy it as much because it costs more, and there's a certain level of like. It's almost lost the value. Like Walmart used to have like the Made in America thing, right? And it's gone. And like nobody looks at like Made in America as like a good thing anymore. Like they just want to buy the cheapest.
They
thing.
look
and myself included.
It's going to be more expensive,
right? And myself included, right? I go and I work for my money, and I got to say like, well, if I buy, if I buy these jeans, then that's however many hours I worked, and if I buy those jeans, it's a lot less hours I had to work, and I can spend it on something else. And so all of us are making those decisions every single day.
Yeah, I always look at the quality though. If I get something of quality, like if I buy something, I'm just going to give an example: some boxing gloves from Pakistan, and some boxing gloves that are made in America. These ones in America, they're going to be way more expensive. First of all,
right,
but they're going to last 5 times as long as these because it's just cheaper material,
Right.
But really, if they were the same, like you said, the same iPhone, you would buy the cheaper one.
Right. Yeah. Well, why would you not? Why would you pay more?
Okay. So what do you hate about the business you're in?
What do I hate about the business, man? That's actually a hard question because that's actually really like my job. I really like what I'm doing.
Man, look, I like my job too, but I could make a list of shit that I hate. No, there's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would think that the probably, well, speaking as an engineer, the best technical solution is not always the best solution,
the correct solution.
The right one. Okay. And so you could make something perfect, but like I said, nobody buy it, right. And you've got to make something not as good as because it's the only thing. Because
That
Well,
makes sense.
I could add features in there, but nobody cares about those features. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. We don't use that. It doesn't matter. But it's so cool. We're not saying it's not cool, but it's not worth the money.
You're saying that
Yeah.
you engineer stuff that's perfect, and they're like, we don't need anything.
These parts we don't need.
Son of a
We wanted
bitch.
to do
Okay,
this thing.
let's go. So that's what you hate.
Yeah, that's the annoying
I
part.
engineered that shit perfect, and you don't like it. Yeah, that's good. That's okay. Okay, wait. Okay. What's your favorite saying? No. Go back. Here's the next one. I always have to preempt this one because everyone says my family and everyone loves their family. Okay. So what in life do you love?
No, okay, that's not my family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course your family. Everybody
Right,
loves their
right,
family,
okay.
right? But what in life do you love?
Let's see here. I really like things that are unexpected. Like,
Yeah. You like surprises and unexpected good things?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, not like events, but I really like
Like,
meeting,
for example?
like, I really like meeting people who are, that
Crazy
break-
gym owners?
They break the mold of who they are, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. And so it's like, oh yeah, you meet like an engineer and you think, oh, well, they're this, whatever. And then it turns out that they're, super into, tweaking their cars and like know all the tech specs on that. Or, there's guys who are super into like rebuilding sewing machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're super technical in terms of like the old ones, right?
Yeah.
And the mechanical ones are like,
Hey, I can sew. I can
Yeah.
sew. I can.
I can functionally sew. I could repair something that doesn't look good, but I can do it.
Okay, that's good. Like you like someone that like you think they're a certain way because they're Mr. with the suit and tie, and then you go to their house and they're riding a Harley, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
like something like unexpected like that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, I love meeting people like that.
That's cool. Yeah, you like diverse people.
Yeah.
Look at me. I got tattoos on my face. Anyway. Okay, that was good. So what in life do you hate?
I'll tell you what I hate is I hate having to be disciplined. I hate it.
You're the boss too, so I bet you do hate it.
Yeah. I really, really, really dislike, like every morning you're like, I gotta get up, I gotta go to the gym, I gotta, drive in there and I gotta do that. But like, it's, it's one of those things you hate doing, but it's really rewarding at the same time. But yeah, every morning, like, especially gym mornings, I'm like, no.
But that's not, you hate being disciplined, not someone disciplining you.
No. Like being like the self-discipline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like, there's so much that's just like, I just want to sleep in and I want to eat Cheetos and I want to drink beer and I don't want to go to work. I'm not going to do it.
My explanation of, and everybody's like, do you like your job? I go, yeah, I do. But listen, if I had to get up out of bed and take 4 steps and press a red button, there would be days that I would be like this. I got to go press that fucking button again. You know what I mean? That's like your whole day. Just that's it. There would be days that you'd be like, man, I just,
Yeah.
So it's everything.
Yeah. I always say like, I really like my job, but they still have to pay me to show up.
Yes. I like that. I'm stealing that. Hey, that goes in with my next question. It's what's your favorite saying?
My favorite saying. I'll go with the first one. What I just said. What I just said. I like my job, but I have to pay it. There's a lot of good ones. But.
Yeah. So if like your wife or some of your friends said he says this all the time, you would say that all the time?
What do I say all the time? Oh gosh, my kids will. What I say to my kids most of the time is stop it.
I know I got a little white little thing right there that I say that too.
What I say to the kids most of the time, and what they would say is, I tell them a lot of times that'll happen, and that's usually in response to them doing something dumb and getting hurt.
A lot of times that'll happen.
Yeah, that'll happen. Like when they want sympathy for, it's like punched his brother punched him back, and he comes running to me. He's like, he hit me. He said, all I did is hit him. And I'm like, yeah, that happens. That'll happen, man.
A lot of times that'll happen. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I'll take that.
I'd say that a lot. I wish I didn't.
Well, get used to it.
Yeah,
I teach kids too, so it's almost the same.
Right.
I get to send them home though. You don't.
You do, yeah.
Okay, so if you didn't do what you did now,
Yeah.
what profession would you do?
That's a good one.
It's hard because you said you always wanted to be an engineer.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, honestly, like those daydreaming kind of things. So I've got absolutely zero talent with music. I love music. Yeah, none. Like
it can be learned.
No,
I play bass. I'm telling you.
So my wife is a good singer, and she's into music and stuff like that, and she's kind of the same way of like, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe you don't have, but you can learn it, and then I'm like, no, you can't, like, you can't be taught.
The white guy, he's offbeat.
I don't even hear pitch, and I don't even hear like beats.
But if you're playing like a guitar, you don't. Well, maybe you do have to hear pitch, right? Well, you just have to press it. You know what note it is.
Yeah, no, I don't really though. Like I don't hear the difference between the notes. So I would say, if you could just totally rewrite anything, I'd probably be a musician or a stand-up comedian.
Wait. You said you couldn't be a musician. So I said...
it has to actually be within my capabilities now.
If you didn't do this, what would you do?
Well, within my capabilities now, I don't know if I could, but I mean, I think anybody can at least write jokes. I don't know if I'd be a good one, but I'd be a stand-up comedian, I think.
Joe Rogan. I know Joe Rogan. Hey, I'm a comedian right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you know who
somewhat know him.
Okay.
Long story. Anyways.
Well, you're in the fighting world, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He's a cool cat too. Super cool guy. Anyways, now, what profession would you never do?
Oh, yeah. What I would never do, and the reason I would never do it is I have done it. I would never work any customer service job ever again, like
without being
grocery store or waiter. Never again.
Bro, I've seen some bad. I lived in Hollywood for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, the general public is so terrible.
They're such dicks. A lot of people.
Yeah.
And these people don't make that much money.
No.
And like, dude, Hollywood was bad. I didn't like LA too much when I lived there, but dude, I saw somebody treating a young girl that was a waitress, like terrible, like yelling, "Go get my food! What are you doing? Hurry up! You're terrible!" Like all, and then I walked up to that dude and I sat at his table. Some rich guy, right?
Yeah.
So look at me, right? So he just like looked at me and I go, "Listen, if you be mean to that girl one more time, I'm gonna come over here and punch you in the mouth." And I walked back over to my table and sat down. And when she went to his table, I like looked at him, and he was like, "I'm sorry, miss." I went, I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, treat everybody nicely. You know what I mean?
Well, and it also sucks. I mean, sometimes like, man, you're having a bad day, and like that may they made a mistake, or maybe they didn't make it's just something happened and it made it worse, and like, you say stuff that you didn't mean, and you're it's like. But yeah, it's the general
customer
public.
service is worse because everybody who comes in is mad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's nobody that's happy, or else I would be here.
And I'm just talking about I waited tables, and I've done worked at a grocery store, cashier at a grocery store, and I would never do that again.
See, I don't like to work with people. I do work with people, but see, my job's different because if people are cracking off to me, I'm like, put the gloves on, go get a mouthpiece.
But also, I would at least assume that there's going to be a really big reward in teaching people something, right? Like seeing them develop, and like they come in and like they're not good, and then like they get better and better and better.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's probably 90% of the reason I still teach. I mean, I'm really good at it too, but I get once or twice a month, I get emails from people. that are like, you changed my life. I taught you how to punch. How did I change your life?
Yeah.
But it made their confidence grow. They broke up with that girl who was treating them like shit. They got a nicer girl, a nice house. They don't let people walk over. And I was like, that's weird. Like, that's what it does for people.
It takes like one little thing to learn, and like once you've learned something, that builds that confidence to continue to go learn something else and something else and something else. Yeah,
for sure. That's my AC. If I don't have the AC on here, we'll melt.
Okay? Oh yeah, no, that's cool.
So the sound, y'all.
Well, it's probably bothering them, not me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me either. But I have to say something. All right, so the last one's a deep one. Okay.
Okay.
At the end of your life, it's all said and done. How would you like for people to remember you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I think if we're really honest, I don't think I'm going to care so much about people remembering me as like a great engineer or anything like that. Like, I think if like my kids don't say my dad loved me and he taught me things and he made me who I am today, I think I'd consider myself a failure if that didn't happen.
They will, though.
No, I hope so.
They absolutely.
Hopefully so.
I can tell. I just met you, and I can tell.
All right. Well,
yeah,
that's
for
good.
sure. All right, man. Thanks for coming out.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
That's super interesting, man. And I like the engineering thing. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think engineers. It's kind of a little bit of a mysterious field for a lot of people who aren't engineers. I mean, it is a very vague idea of what we do.
I didn't know what they taught you. What are they going to teach you to be an engineer? Like, how do they teach you how to like design something like that, or reflect sound or whatever?
Right.
Yeah, and you enlightened me to a lot of it.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got a website?
It's thejakeadkins.com. Somebody's camping on jakeadkins.com, and I'm not going to pay them for that. It's like there's nothing there. But and I post some stuff every now and again. It's not super active. But my reading list is on there if you want to go read some books.
It's really interesting. I looked through it the other day, and now that you're saying that you do it on audiobooks, I might get into some of those.
Yeah.
Maybe not the one we talked about, though.
No, I mean, that was a little long. I will tell you there's an app called Overdrive.
Overdrive?
Yeah, and you need a library card. Because
like a real library card?
Like a real library card. I had to go get one.
At the library in Houston?
At the library in Houston.
Oh, shit.
And so they manage the digital collections for libraries.
Okay.
And so you log on with your library card and you check out all the digital media that the library has. And so they've got a huge selection of ebooks, huge selection of audiobooks.
And you can listen to it on your phone, in your car?
On your phone, just like it's like Audible or stuff like that. So you're not having to buy, like audiobooks are expensive.
Shit, you could have saved me a lot of money. I have a lot of Audible books.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an Audible selection because or subscription because they don't have everything, right? So there's books that you want to read, but I only save it for the books that the library doesn't have. But they got a huge selection of stuff.
Wait, what is it called again?
It's called Overdrive.
Overdrive.
Yeah, and I don't own any shares or am part of it.
I don't own any shares of stuff they give away for free.
Right, yeah. Well, I think these guys have got to be making money. I think the library system pays them to manage that, and that's where they're making the money. Yeah.
Government
so
they're So we pay, how much taxes?
So you're paying for it, right?
Yeah. Pay a lot of taxes.
But of things our tax dollars go to, the libraries are a hard one to argue against, right?
For sure.
It's like, okay, I'll pay for those for sure. That's something you'd have a hard time arguing. We should shut those down.
That I don't like paying for is all these fucking politicians. See, first time I cussed this whole couple hours. Yeah. Anyways. Hey man, I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
It was really good to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Right,
Great.
Thanks.
Great coming out here.
Oh yeah. That was good, dude.
All right.